everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Brand equity, SEO. We've got a great one here for you today. I've asked Nicole Teufel. Did I get it right this time? Teufel. And Sam Johnson to come in and walk us through everything we need to do to really build our brand equity. So brand equity today, SEO, how often you should be posting content. Stay tuned, and we'll get all your questions answered. Sam, thank you for coming in today, or actually joining today. And I'm anxious to learn what you've got because, I'm building an affiliate network. And I'll tell you where all this comes from. With this affiliate network, I'm calling all these small brokerage companies around the country and talking to them. I'm going online, looking at their reviews, looking at their websites, and I'm telling you, probably over 80% of them have links that do not work. The website colors that are not attractive, content is not up to speed. Not that our company is perfect, but there's a lot of help that it needs. You could really help a lot of people out there. So I really think you guys bring a lot of value here today. I think this channel is something that we haven't really touched on, brand equity or branding. I think let's touch a little bit about on SEO today as well. So if you could, you want to give us a little bit about yourself and your company first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take it away first.
Well, thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here and discuss this topic with you. So I started Teufel Studios a couple years ago. I'm passionate about design and business, and branding is where those two overlap. So we are here in Kansas City building a team of talented creatives and strategists so we can help businesses all over the country really stand out and have that, be perceived really the way they want to be. So that's me. Sam, you want to give your background?
Yeah, so my background's actually in commercial real estate, which is how I met Joe. Now I'm working with Nicole. She decided about, was it March? She wanted to put up with me, so she hired me, and I'm able to get into the marketing side of things, which is something that I've always had a passion for. So kind of, double dipping with the commercial real estate side of things and with marketing. So it's been a real joy working with Nicole and staying connected with you, Joe.
Okay, good enough. I think what you guys are doing can bring a lot of value to our subscribers, like I said earlier. And, brand equity. I think, why don't we just start with brand equity, and then we'll end with, let's talk about SEO at the end and how important it is. I mean, you have to have the branding first, right? Because you want to work on that SEO, and you've got to have the good branding once everybody gets there. You want to kind of walk us through what brand equity is, first of all.
Yeah. So first, brand equity is the perceived value by your customers. It's not, an actual dollar amount to the value of your business. It's how someone perceives the value of your business. So Coca-Cola, the cost of the actual materials and, real estate that they own and physical things is going to be way different than the perceived value of the brand because of the buying power, I guess it's just the leverage they have. So that is going to increase the value of the company like tenfold. So when we're thinking about brand equity, it's going to be, how can you not only just close a sale, but what can you do that over time is building something that's more valuable than just the physical things you have, the physical products or services you have.
Okay. Now, in our company, there's people that, in our business that is, well, we look at brand equity. You've got, when you're buying an asset, buying a company, you're looking at that value because there is value there. You've got people that have been driven to that business or that brand, and they're regular users of it, so there's value there. And so that's why I really think this is important. All right, so we know what brand equity is. How do we get our brand to really work for us? What are the steps we need to take to really make our brand work for us?
Yeah, so a good example of brand equity, just in case people are still a little unsure. It's kind of like Apple computers compared to Android. We buy Apple because of the perception that we think it's the lifestyle, and once you buy the Apple, you also have the watch and the tablet and the computer and the phone,
Right.
everything. So that's it's not just like the product's no more valuable physically to create it, to get the actual raw materials. It's that perceived value. So first of all, we want to talk about why this is so important. And there's statistics based on how consumers, spend money and make purchase. So over almost 90% of consumers say that authenticity is a key factor when deciding, what brands they're going to support. And so, where am I going with this?
Nervous doing that. I know you don't do these. You can relax, let it go. Don't worry about it. My subscribers are the nicest people in the world, so you're good. Relax. I know it's a lot.
To Nicole's point, I mean, with the brand authenticity, Lord Almighty, authenticity, it is so important. But there's also been a study that was done. It's a global study. It was they researched 380 B2B service providers, and I mean, these are, I guess you could compare it to any type of commercial real estate company, but really any service provider in general. But one thing that I hear commonly in commercial real estate is, oh, well, we branding, yeah, branding, whatever, but we have all these services. That's what makes us important. We have all these different services. But in this study of 380 brands all across the world, they realized that, wow, like actually branding has equal importance, if not more importance, than the services itself. Because services are something that, all companies, what do they have? Services. And it's not the more services you have, the better. It's the brand. And to Nicole's point earlier, with Apple, they have all of these different services, same type of services that Android has, but what is it? It is the brand. So Nicole, I guess expand on that and the equity of that.
Yeah. So, there's tons of people who do what you do. There's dozens, hundreds, thousands that are doing the same thing. And so when people buy from you, it's because they trust you. And to get to that point, it's going to take work. It's going to take interacting with the brand a dozen times at least. It's going to be a journey and a process of getting to know them. So if you were to see commercial the first time, you wouldn't remember it. But once you've seen it a dozen times, and sometimes it happens during the same TV show, you get the same commercial over and over, then you memorize it and you know the words. So you have to, and most of the time it's not going to happen that quickly, but it takes a series of events and experiences to remember something first, and then like it, or you decide if you like it or not. And then eventually we want to build that trust is when the sale actually will happen. So being aware of that process and how important it is to go along this journey with the audience or the consumer or the client is really important to pay attention to and not expect.
Yeah, you know what amazes me? One company that's absolutely astonishing and incredible at this is Tesla. Have you ever seen a Tesla commercial? Have you ever seen a Tesla ad? They don't advertise. Yet that brand is so strong. Man, if you're a small business and you can create that, you've done something. So yeah, the brand is absolutely key. You got to really focus on it, and because if you've got, I'm going on to some of these websites, and I was on one the other day that was burnt orange and I think green and brown, and I'm like, it's just like somebody just kind of all over the page. I'm like, this is not appealing to me. This is not a brand that is, it looks like you don't care. You haven't given this any thought. And then, of course, some of the links didn't work. I'm like, perfect, so not somebody you really want to deal with. So I think this is really important to have your brand out there, have it spot on, and Tesla has always been, to me, has been absolutely amazing, but they've done it through their product. The product spoke for itself.
I love that you bring up the coloring because, it's known that brand recognition obviously has a lot to do with the coloring, but it increases the recognition by 80%. So if you're having a burnt orange website and, or your colors are all over the place and it's inconsistent, I mean, that's going to really hit you hard when it's coming to your brand recognition.
Yeah, and now if you're in Austin, Texas, and you're a big Horns fan, I get it. But if you're in small town, wherever, outside and not in Texas, then maybe you need to take a look at that and find a color that is more suitable, or maybe you tie it to your to something that's important in your state, like Nebraska, my hometown or my home state. A little scarlet and cream can go a long way. And tie it to something that is memorable. But all right, so let's talk about content on let's go to your website. So you're driving people to your website. You've got this brand that you're trying to get out there. What kind of content should you be putting up there? I guess maybe let's focus on commercial real estate or small business.
So content, it's 80% of people are buying things because of the content. So content is something that everyone knows, content, I need content, I need content. They don't really know what that means. And with all these different platforms, content can show up in so many different forms. So when we're thinking about content, there's really 4 or 5 pillars that you want to choose from. And you can dive into this a little bit deeper and think about pillars as topics. But the pillars that I like to think about are the types of content. And the first one is going to be value. So you need something that's going to be useful. It's like a tip, something that's helpful. And then the second one is authority. It's something, like, what do you know? It's social proof. The third one is relatable content. It's who we are as a business, or who you are as a business. Getting people to get to know you in a humanized way. The fourth one would be promotional. So that's when you have here's my listing, or whatever product or service you have to offer. You do want to share that, but it's going to be just a percentage of the time. You don't want to just post only that. And then the fifth one would be objections, or it could be the solution. So if you think about what problem are you solving for people? What are they? I wish I had that. If it's it could be nutrition and fitness. It's people are not feeling good. That's the problem you're solving is, stop not feeling well. So think about what problems they're facing, and then put out content that's the solution to that problem. So those are the 5 pillars that I like to start with. You need to kind of touch on all those different things.
That is, I think you're so right that people understand what content is. People think that going on to Twitter and retweeting something that Forbes, Reuters, Globe Street put out is putting content out. That is putting content out. That's just a retweet. Yeah. Isn't self-generated content a lot more effective?
Yeah, it's way, way more effective. And it's good to at least show up. If you don't have tons of time, it might be a good starting place just to dip your toe in the water. But when it comes from you, it means a lot more. And making sure you hit on all those areas are really important, because some people they'll want to do too much of one or the other. And it's important to have a balance, because you're telling your story, you're getting to know them, you're telling them what you do, showing that you're an expert. It's hitting on all the areas for them to really have a good picture. And so that's kind of where a lot of people fail, is they maybe overthink it, or they're afraid, but they're not really forming this digital ecosystem, which a friend of mine told me that term, which I love it. It's building something digitally that is almost letting them meet you in person. Some of these people, we have these capabilities to work globally, nationally, globally, and you're not gonna be able to meet these people. So how can you make it feel like you've met them when they come across your Instagram or come across your website, you need to make sure that it's the same experience as if you were met them at a networking event or, at a coffee shop. What would that conversation be like? Are they getting those same things that you would be saying? Most of the time, no. So
Yeah, I think, we tell.
Yeah,
Oh,
knowing your values and making sure that those values are, you're really communicating those values through every single pillar. Because I saw a statistic the other day, 77% of consumers only buy from brands that share the same values. So you got to be able to portray those values in every avenue, in every language, in every pillar of your content, so that you can get that out and give consumers a reason that they should buy from you or they should work with you.
and it increases the trust factor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we tell our agents and our employees when we're creating content to be putting out, or actually if you're going out and meeting people, you have to bring value. Because I don't know, maybe you know the number. What's the number of ads you see in a day? It's like it's like 1 million plus, right? That you see in one day.
You don't even know if you're seeing an ad.
It's true anymore, right? It's how the hell are you going to stand out? You've got to stand out. And if you bring value, that makes you stand out. If you're a real estate agent and you know what's going on in your marketplace, let's say you're a multifamily broker in Kansas City, and you know all the stats for these. This is how long an asset's been on the market. This is how long the average time on market. Here's the rental concessions in the area. And obviously, you're not going to do the whole place, the whole city, but you're going to have an area that you're working on. The rental concessions, vacancy rates, what it's taking to get deals done. You need to know everything that's currently on the market. You need to know all that. That's when people are going to start listening to you. So that's the kind of content as an agent or a brokerage that you'd want to be putting out to drive people to say, okay, these people know what they're talking about in this area. And, we put this generic content out that's really, you're just putting it out to put it out. You're not putting it out to do yourself. You're not creating value for yourself. And are you seeing that around, and I'm talking about California, are you seeing that around the country?
Absolutely. One thing that, a conversation I feel like I always end up having with people in commercial real estate is, they're like, oh, I guess I have to put content out, right? Like that's what they say. They don't know anything about it. I've spoken with a guy who's been writing a blog for an entire year, and did a background check on that, and no one's even seen it. So there's a lot more to the content. But another thing that I've noticed with people in commercial real estate is I start talking branding to them, and then when they start talking back to me, they start talking business strategy. Now, there's a big difference between, if I'm saying this is what you should be doing with branding, even before marketing, and they're saying, oh no, I have this strategy, if the tenant does this, then I can, work with the buyer for, just they start going into business strategy, and they like over their head completely. And so I think knowing when you're working with people in an industry that's so numbers based, like there's been so many studies on it, but having a brand, and this is this is not well known to a lot of people in Greed, having a brand increases your revenue by 33%. Now, given that it's a good brand, but it does increase your revenue by about 33%.
It's a big number, and I just think, we need to take a look at it. And let's talk, consistency is something that I always hear when I'm having these conversations. How often, and I know I'm going back here a little bit, but it was just bouncing around in my head, consistency on posting and putting a blog post out. Can you kind of walk us through, when you're putting a blog post out on your website, how often should it be going up? Every week? Twice a week? What?
I would say it's really going to depend on your SEO, like your goals with SEO. If you're thinking, local, regional, national. If you're just doing local SEO, once a month, twice a month would probably be enough, depending on how saturated the market is. So when it comes to SEO, it's always like you have to research everything. It's not just, oh yeah, we've worked with this industry before, we know exactly what to do. Like there's going to be a research that you have to go through to figure out that specific market. So It's oh yeah. So the strategy is going to be changing always as Google's always updating things. So we go through a research process to figure out what based on your goals. But the bigger, of course, you're trying to reach, the larger uh, area you're trying to reach, you're going to have to do it more often. So if you're super niche, very local, hyper local focused, you can get away with maybe twice a month. But if you're trying to go, big like national, I mean, I would say at least twice a week. You're going to want to be putting out content constantly. And if you're going to write a blog, blogs are great because you can kind of write this really nice blog and then repurpose it and break it down into micro blogs. But I would say it's definitely going to be based on your goals, and it's going to be based on your location.
What I hear talking to other brokerages around the country is, I don't have time for that. And honestly, we don't either. So what do? You have to hire a company to write those blogs for you. It's not that expensive. You get 4 articles for probably $300 a month. And then we write in between and for our brokerage. And so, it really doesn't have to be that time consuming. And, on the posting on your social for your company, there's where do you go actually? Why don't you walk us through where you go if I need to do a post once a day? Do you guys use Canva? What tools do you use to generate this content?
So we use Adobe, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop are the go-to creative software for designing. We start with strategizing and concepting content using those 5 pillars, and then diving deeper into specific topics. We'll come up with tons and tons of ideas. It'll be batched, and we can look into dates if there's specific things happening on certain dates. If there's events, you want to consider that. And then we'll have the copywriting we'll have a copywriter doing the copy, and then we'll have a designer creating the graphics. And then we schedule it out for a whole month. And then that is all planned out. But the second part of that is engagement. It's not like a set it and forget it type of thing. Creating the content, we want to batch, but then on a daily basis, we have to be engaging with the community. So it's called social media because you're supposed to be social. So we spend time every day getting on there, liking, commenting. If someone comments on your stuff, you better comment back and go like their stuff. And that's part of it. So setting time monthly, or if you can't do a whole month at a time, maybe every 2 weeks, but then having time in every day, if it's 30 minutes, get on and be social. It's going to be a big...
Yeah, that's something I never think about is you should calendar it. There was actually a guy that's a commercial real estate agent in New York. Yesterday, he put out his schedule on how he has his post schedule. And he goes, I do this at night. He goes, and I know exactly where this content is going to go every week. He goes, so I'll do it on actually a Sunday night. Sunday night, he sets it all up, and it just goes out automatically. He goes, at this point, it takes me about an hour on a Sunday night. My content goes out. I'm good. And he goes, and it's been driving a good amount of business to me. And so, there's so many tools out there that everybody can utilize. And, I know you're probably using some, I don't use all the stuff that you use because I would just be lost. But I have stuff that I use on my phone, and it gets the job done for me. But now at the end of the video, Nicole, I'm going to have you say those 5 pillars again because I didn't write them down, and I think they're very key to what we're doing. But I think, without SEO, you can have the perfect website. It can be beautiful. The colors match, and nobody sees it. Or your blog post, like Sam was saying, nobody saw this company's blog post. How do we get people to our website? What do we need to do to get people to come? How do we drive that SEO up so we go up further on Google?
So, yeah, that was hard to tell them when they said, oh, I write blogs weekly. And we said, well, you've had 0 visitors this month.
Well, you know what? Hold on one second. There's something that most people don't do, and that's they don't go look at their analytics.
Yes.
They don't know how to look at their analytics. So, everybody should be looking at your analytics and see how your content is performing and which content is performing best. And small business owners, that's something they need to really take into consideration.
Well, there's a really great tool. There's a few of them actually, but one that we use is called semrush.com. You can type in your domain name and it will give you free analytics, and you can see what your domain authority score is, how many visitors you have. You can even compare it to competition. There's a paid version that you get to see a whole bunch more stuff. But that's a really fast way to see where you're landing right now. So that's usually what we look at for if we're going to work with someone.
Yeah.
This is where we're starting.
It can be kind of upsetting for people and shocking when they're super proud of their website. It's beautiful design. You can have videos implemented in it, and when you go, and I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, when I do these preliminary search domain scores out of 100, I see a lot of ones, and a lot of those ones have beautiful websites. But then you can go further in and say, how are people finding you? Is there anyone finding you from another website that you're linked to? Sometimes there's circumstances in which they're getting linked from CoStar, would be an example. But you can also see, how are they finding you on Google? What are people searching on Google that's leading them to your website? If they're searching the exact name of your company, your exact name specifically in your city, that means that you're not getting organic traffic to your website. You're getting people that are very targeted. They know who you are and they want to get there. So I would say 9 times out of 10, beautiful websites that I'll look at. Unfortunately, that's the case.
Yeah, I can imagine that's more often than not that's the case, because people just aren't looking at those analytics. All right, SEO. Let's tell everybody how to get that. How do you get your website found? What do we need to do to get to the top of Google?
So step 1, see where you're at now, so we could and write that down. But SEO there's 2 parts to SEO, and it's setting up the metadata that's built into the website with the right keywords. And then part 2 would be the actual content, text, blogs that are going out on the website. So those are the 2 parts. When you're setting up the website to begin with, that's usually the developer who's putting in all that metadata. And that has been things that we've done research to figure out what that needs to be. And then part 2 is the ongoing content that we're putting out regularly, consistently, that's going to keep adding to the keywords. So those are the things you need to focus on. I love WordPress. It's my favorite. That's pretty much all I use. I know that with commercial real estate or even residential real estate, there's a lot of, website platforms that are kind of built for you to have that database. But if there's a way to get on WordPress and integrate that, it's going to be way, way better. You're going to have way more opportunities and possibilities to improve your SEO. So step 1, your developer is going to do research to figure out what the metadata is. Not all developers know how to do this, so make sure it's something you ask them and discuss with them and make sure that they know how to do that. They will build the website, put all that metadata in. Part 2 is content creation, putting out blogs, making sure that any of the text on the website, the formatting needs to be correct as well. So your headers, there's H1, H2, H3, those need to be set as well. So whatever your titles are, Google will track what you're making like your headlines throughout your website. So those need to be sometimes not as fun and creative as we want, but kind of just simple, like, commercial real estate in, Overland Park is what it needs to say sometimes. But that's, every text that's on the website. So working with a copywriter who is familiar with SEO is also really important.
And I think one of the when people are writing blogs, especially in commercial real estate, I was having a casual conversation with a guy in Seattle not too long ago who is starting to build his blog up. But you got to make sure, because there's so much complexity in the industry. When you really get into the nitty-gritty, I know he's getting into syndication. Your website blogs are not a time to write a research paper. You got to be using words that people are going to be commonly searching in order to be found. So If you really get down into the nitty gritty, well, that's, maybe informative for the right person. As far as getting that organic traffic, you got to implement more of the generalized keywords. And we have one of our digital strategists we work with, Nicole, but what was the age level she said you got to write at?
It's like about 11 to 14, maybe 14-year-old needs to be able to understand.
Really?
So the average person, and we usually say the least common denominator. So you have to think of what is the average person Google searching to find you. It's not going to be your name. It's not going to be always like these, things that you're thinking. It's probably something kind of a little off, or very, very basic. So again, that's something you can research and find out. You can look up what are the keywords that people are searching in my area or in, other areas you want to expand to.
And look up your competitors' information on one of those, like SEM or Moz is another one. Don't only look at yours, look at your competitors. See what their keywords are. See how people are finding them. What is their domains for? How many.
So I can go in and look at my competitors too?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see what keywords they're ranking for. You could see the cost per that keyword. There's tons of information out there that you can get. You could copy what the keyword
being linked from too. Yeah. And then go try to get the same link.
So there's a few other things with SEO. One of them is going to be making sure that Google has indexed your sitemap correctly. If your domain authority score is 0, most likely Google's just not picking up your site. Another thing is backlinks. So backlinks is wherever the URL to your website is showing up. So if you have it on your Instagram, if you have it on your Facebook, wherever it's out there in the world, that's a backlink to your website. So the more of those we have, the better, the healthier the website is. So if you're ever featured somewhere, any PR you can get, anything else that's you have going out, the more of those links. And just like with Instagram or Twitter, if you're commenting on people's posts, that's a backlink to your account. So that's another reason why you want to be social, because now there's just more links to get to you.
Yeah, I call it now, and this is kind of kitschy, I guess, but social equity. You've got time and you're on social, you should be commenting on people's stuff, and give positive remarks being the key. Good Lord. Some of the negative remarks I get, I'm like, I just like it. I give it a like, then I have to say thank you. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use you for my own good and say thank you because it'll drive more people to me. But yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that you could go in and check out other people's websites. That's something that I wasn't aware of. Okay, anything else on SEO that you guys think is critical for our subscribers to know?
No.
That we skim the surface. It is such we would be talking for hours and hours and hours, but I think that's a pretty good summary for someone that's not familiar with SEO. Yeah. And there's specialists out there that know a lot more, and can go and most people usually hire someone to do their SEO. It's not necessarily something that's easy to go about doing, and it's very time consuming. But as far as having a generalized understanding, those would be like the most important things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think people don't understand SEO. You've got to get your website seen. You've got to spend time doing it, and if you're not, we need to hire somebody like you guys that obviously is what you do for a living. But I just think it's key because it will bring in business. And, the higher you go on Google, the more SEO you get, the higher you go, the better off you're going to be. All right, let's touch on those 5 pillars one more time so I can write them to action. I'm going to keep them here. Let's write them down so we don't forget them again. Nicole, what were those again?
So value, tips,
okay.
And something helpful. Authority, it's what you know, and social proof. Relatable, it's who you are as a person or as a business. It's humanizing your brand. Promotion, which is selling, call to action, what you want them to do. So sometimes it's not always your product or service. Maybe it's you just want them to sign up for your emails. And then objections and overcoming objections and the solution that you are providing to their problem, their problems.
Very good. Well, ladies, thank you very much for coming on today. I'm going to put your information below. And if you're watching this now and you want to reach out to Nicole or Sam, you can DM me directly, go to their information that's below, and reach out to them. And, thank you for tuning in. Nicole, Sam, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate all the information. I feel like we could sit and talk about this all day, but I know that you guys are busy. So thank you very much. And we'll get together soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.